Hello and welcome back once again to the All the Pies YouTube channel. My name's Kev, that's Davy, and yes, the rumours aren't true. We are still alive. We haven't been murdered. We haven't been abducted. Or were we? Let's get into it.
God, he scored so many goals.
Hello, stranger. You alright?
Alright, Davy, alright.
Aye.
Aye, yeah. Well, I said abduction. The last time it was abducted by aliens. Now this time I wasn't abducted by aliens. I actually went of my own accord, just to get a bit of a break. Just went to Europa, the moon of
Aye.
Jupiter, yeah, and just
Very nice, aye.
spent some time with the other life forms on there.
Aye, good.
How you been, anyways? You all right?
I am alright. Busy doing music and that, and I'm looking for a part-time job, so I've got to do all of that kind of stuff and whatever, you know. I don't have to go to the when I contacted them, they were like, "You don't have to come here. It's got on your thing. You don't have to contact us." I says, "I know, but I need a part-time job." So that's one thing. If anybody's looking for somebody talking shite, then I'm your man, kind of thing.
Aye.
But
Or if anybody needs a hitman,
aye,
he's a top hitman. Yeah.
aye. But yeah,
Aye.
so just busy with music and stuff like that, and been to a few matches.
Well,
Despite
there's
not
been a
doing
lot
the
happening, hasn't there, since we last
aye.
spoke? It has been a while, but we are back now. But I think one of the ones we didn't get to do a video on, and we're going to have to mention, is the fucking Mackhams, didn't we?
I
Went
know,
down there and fucking slayed the Mackhams, didn't we? We
I know.
did, aye. Were you there? Were you at the game?
I was. It was
Were you?
it was a bizarre day out. I didn't realize that my ticket was actually for the for the where people were paying £600 for a ticket. It was in that same area and everything. Just
All
with
right.
being disabled, to put some of the disabled fans in there, and I didn't know until we got there. And there were things that were an utter nightmare, and there was something that happened that was really bad that I'm not going to talk about, but I think somebody's either going to or already has lost a job over it, which I didn't
Oh.
intend. But basically, somebody having a go at a disabled guy over absolutely nothing, whilst representing the club, is not the thing to do. Do you know what I
Representing
mean?
our club or
Yeah,
representing Sunderland's club?
representing our club. But I'm not going to talk about that. But there was something
Well, tell
else
us
that
off air. You can tell us about that off air. I want to know about
Aye.
that.
But I haven't really told anybody about that. But yeah, it kind of could have spoiled the game. But the fact that we won was the main thing. And there was some really crazy incidents in that, because we got free food and drink. I was driving, so I couldn't drink any alcohol because I had to park my car
Hospitality,
at
was
the
it?
ground. It was a hospitality, you know, where they had all the Newcastle stuff up and then they took it all back down again.
Aye.
It was in there. And met Ryan Taylor, said hello to Ryan Taylor. I was talking to Nobby Solano, which was brilliant. He's still playing his trumpet, by the way. I asked him. And I was talking at length to Shola, and Shola, the Mackham Slayer, basically, you know, what a
No,
lovely,
what a
lovely
person
guy.
to talk to on Derby Day.
Yeah. But something happened. It was because my son Alex, he's 21. When we got there, we got loads of free tickets for free drink. I just had like Coke and that, you know, but he made up for the fact that I didn't have any alcohol. And
Coca-Cola, that is. Coca-Cola.
honestly, it was just, and then by the end of the day, we were still there for a good hour after the match celebrating. And what happened is in all the bars that were still housing the Newcastle fans, that the machine, the payment machine broke, and they weren't accepting cash, so they just said free drinks for everybody.
Shut up,
So
man.
honestly, it was just crazy, you know. It was
I'd
absolutely
heard about
hilarious.
that, you know. Somebody else told us about that. Said like there were
Yeah.
I mean, that's just
It was
that's
just
just the
mental,
cherry
and
on the top of it,
this
isn't
was
it?
all at Sunderland's ground. But what happened was
I mean, there's
Um,
hospitality and then there's hospitality.
and
They've put signs up for it, right? They've basically turned it into St James's Park.
my
They've
mate,
absolutely laid down so we can cream them on the pitch, and then they've given free drinks after the match.
and my
Can
mate,
we play you every week?
one of my best mates, Mick, he's a Sunderland fan, and he's, he used to travel all over the world to watch them and that. And we talk football. We don't take the mick out of each other and that. But I remember, like, he knew roughly where I was going to be, and I know exactly where he sits. And I said to him, I'll wave at you. So I text him. I says, I'm waving at you. Can you see he's waving? And I says, I've got Raynaud's that I get in me fingers here, so these fingers aren't working, and my thumb, I had cramp in my thumb, so I was kind of waving like that. And but about an hour before the game, I needed to go to the toilet, right? And all drinking all the bloody free Coke and whatever. And I'd just been talking
Coca-Cola,
with
this Coca-Cola.
I just been I'd just been talking with Shola, and I ended up going to Netty, and I got talking with one of the Newcastle stewards who was like looking after the doors and that, and they were all absolutely brilliant. They were fantastic. So I'm cracking on with this guy, and these couple of lads came out the toilets and they were going, "Hey!" and all this, and I looked, and Shola was beside us. He was just coming through the door. So I moved out the way for them to get to Shola, but they didn't go to Shola. They come to me. They were getting photos and everything. And, "Hey, Davy, we love you," and all this kind of stuff, And Shola's standing there looking and going, "What the fuck is going on?" Like, the Mackem Slayer at the Stadium of Light, and these lads are like wanting photos of me and all this kind of thing. It was just hilarious, man. And Shola was just killed himself laughing. And he was standing there expecting them to want to talk to him, and they didn't. And he just ended up walking off.
Much did you pay them, Davy?
No, honestly, it was
Was it like,
hilarious.
right, lads, there's a tenner each, right? I'm coming out the toilet in a minute, right? Shola's there. Just ignore him. Come and get some pictures with me,
We
right?
are the Geordies. People need to watch. We are the
I'll
Geordies.
get you
That's
a
what
free
it's all
drink after
about.
the match.
So anyway, I then went to go into the toilet, and somebody was in the toilet, and I thought, the disabled toilet. So I'd knocked on the door, and I could tell there was somebody in. So I waited and waited. About 5 minutes later, the door opens, and Shola come out the disabled toilet. And I says, "Shola, I know you retired with injury, but I didn't think you were that bad, mate." And he was killing himself laughing at. I says, "Anyway, you've been in for a good 5 minutes at least. Should I leave it for a minute, And he was just like, and I spoke to him for ages later on after the match. He's a lovely, lovely, lovely guy, But that kind of just set everything up. The whole day was brilliant, and then the football. I honestly think we didn't really have to get out of second gear the whole game, But
well, I was good. I didn't get a ticket. Like, I put in for the ballot. I put in for the ballot for most of the away games, and I just haven't been successful. Well,
no, you would never get.
That's a story for another podcast.
You were never getting the one for that one.
But yeah, it just seems impossible to get away tickets these days. But well, that's the nature of the beast. Anyways, I could talk about the Mackems all day because that was a fantastic day. However, we are here for another reason, because yesterday, Saturday evening, Newcastle United were the late kick-off, and they travelled all the way down to Nottingham to play Nottingham Forest, not Notts Forest. They don't like that. They don't like Notts Forest.
Yeah,
like Nottingham Forest.
And not the county,
And
but the city.
revenge was on the cards because the reverse of that fixture, which doesn't seem like 2 minutes ago, Chris Wood put a hat-trick past her. So we were looking for revenge. So before we do talk about it, Davy, got a little question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Are you ready?
I think so. It's been a while.
Are you sure you're ready?
Been a while. Aye, go on.
Are you fucking ready?
Okay, let's go.
I've missed him, man.
I've missed him.
Yeah, the little scamp. Right, so yeah. I mean, I was looking forward to this one, Davey, because I think I've mentioned previous when we played them last season. Now, my girlfriend's dad's a big Nottingham Forest fan. And because of that, I have got a little soft spot for them. I think I always have, but not when we play them. So
Yeah,
obviously, you can imagine after the 3-1, especially Chris Wood coming back to score a hat trick against where he was enjoying that moment. So I was
yeah,
looking for a moment to enjoy myself. So I
yeah,
think the first thing we need to talk about was the team sheet, because after the last game against Luton, everybody saw the pictures of Anthony Gordon leaving the ground with a big space boot on crutches, and it did not look good at all.
yeah. Well,
Um,
I think I saw what happened to him. It was just before half time, and he come from the left side, and he come inside, and he was kind of on the edge of the centre circle in our side of the pitch, and he went to play a ball down the right wing, and just as he did, there was a player come in at his trailing foot, and it looked to me like he had took his like stamped on his Achilles,
hmm,
and he kind of seemed to twist a little bit because all his weight was on that foot as he was putting the ball through. So getting kicked on the Achilles is not a good thing anyway. It could have been his ankle,
no,
I couldn't see that much, but it looked like he twisted it a little bit, and it was just before half time, and he kind of, he went off a little bit sheepish. So I wasn't surprised when he didn't come out, but then I think it must have just been a precaution and everything, and then he was
yeah.
he was
I mean,
spotted in the Metro Centre and everything, and but
it seemed all right.
I wasn't expecting him to play. I thought, it could have damaged ligaments or anything, or just it. But I'm over the moon that he was on the team sheet, So
Well, I mean, if
yeah,
it was that Achilles knock, I remember when I was at school playing, and Mr. Shaw kicked us right in the Achilles. And it was a definite penalty, and he didn't give us it neither. I know that really, really hurts. But I was
yeah,
super surprised. I'd taken him out my FPL team. I was so convinced he wasn't playing.
yeah,
So it was a very welcome surprise to see his name on the team sheet. I think that was the one thing that really shocked everybody going into the game.
yeah.
And when we started the game, I mean, we looked really comfortable the first 15, 20 minutes. I mean, I think after 10 minutes we had 83% of the
We had
possession.
loads of possession. Yeah,
And
yeah,
yeah, it looked really, really, really comfortable. However, having said that, they did have probably the best chance in the opening exchanges when Gibbs White put it just wide. Probably should have done a bit better with that finish actually. And I think from then the game became a little bit more open, didn't it?
yeah.
What was your take on the opening, say 15, 20 minutes?
Yeah, it was one of those where we were just passing the ball around nicely, and we didn't create a great deal. Um, we didn't have many shots really, but in that early period, it's one. I just think, come on. Um, to me, Wilson didn't look very sharp. He kind of he looked like he had scraps to deal with, but he didn't look as sharp as he would normally do, and he didn't hold the ball up as well as he would normally do. And I thought McGee was a little bit off as well. Some of his passing when he got the ball wasn't great, and he was
Yeah.
coming inside a lot more and allowing Trippier to go out. But um, when they had that chance with Gibbs White, you can see me and Sara um, just behind the goal, well, like just to the side of the goal. Um, one of the things, and Sara's there, and she's going as the ball just goes past net. And she got a text of one of our friends who'd say, "I've just seen you on the telly," and all this kind of stuff, But and then when
Well,
when
I mean,
when we
that was
watched
the
it,
early morning signal, wasn't
she was killing herself when she was like,
it?
"Oh no!" And then she's like this and all this kind of thing. It was hilarious,
Super slow motion.
But,
But yeah, I
but
mean, it was a bit of a warning shot, wasn't it? That gives White
yeah, it
chance.
was.
But I mean, going into the game, I had looked at a few stats. In Nottingham Forest don't seem to do well from set pieces.
Yeah,
So I always knew that free kicks in their half and corners were going to be a massive chance for us to get in the score sheet, because we are good at set pieces. We've got a lot of height, and the set piece that we scored from, I could watch 1,000 times
yeah,
over.
it was brilliant.
It was delightful, absolutely delightful. So yeah, they played the short corner. And they reviewed it really well on Match of the Day. Actually, I'm going to mention what they said, and I'm not going to take the credit for this. But what they really looked at is the people that were blocking off the players for Bruno to get into that particular position, and they likened it to the goal. I think he scored. I think it was against Brentford last season at home, where what happened is Miley and Botman and Byrne just completely blocked off their players, and Bruno coming in. I mean, it's a difficult finish that he's got. I mean, it's a difficult one to work. You can see, I think he said after the game as well that that Mad Dog had been running them through this exact scenario.
Yeah.
So it must be a really, really nice feeling to practice it, and then when it comes off like that. But Bruno's finish was absolutely delightful because it takes a lot of technique to get that ball across in the hitting it first time from that angle as well. What did you think of the goal?
Well, I'm going to take it a little bit further before that, because we had a corner the other side from the shot from outside the box by Sean Longstaff, and it was a decent shot, and it just bounced in front of Sal's, and I thought he did quite well to get it, to be honest. I mean, I couldn't see much from where I was, but it looked like it was going in, and of course you see later, and it was going in. So Trippier comes across and takes the corner, and it was a decent corner, and Sells flaps at it and puts it out for a corner the other side. And Trippier, it was really funny because Trippier, to me, he kind of looked like he was labouring, because you thought, oh, he's got to get over the other side to take the other corner. But he looked like he looked knackered, and I thought, is he knackered, or is he doing something? And Longstaff had come back. He was the player that was on the halfway line almost for the first corner. And Trippier just said, you go, I'll stay here. It was like, I'm too knackered, I can't do anything. And he just hung around and nobody went for him. And Miggy took the corner. And I was just expecting Miggy to high it in and thinking, he's going to be coming at it with his left foot and it'll be an in-swinger, blah, blah, blah. But he hit it, and he just got the right pace on it for, I forget who, there was one of their players, it might have been Longstaff was on him or Miley. Somebody blocked their player just stop him getting the ball.
Miley, yeah.
Was it Miley? And Trippier come on it and just whipped it straight round, to the back post. And you could see Bruno doing the same thing. He was kind of hanging around, like he didn't look he was interested, as if he was interested. And everybody kind of, when the ball came, the all court kind of looked at the ball, but it came round the back, as you've said, and everybody blocked their players off. But I don't think they would have been in a position to even get there had they not been blocked off, because they were all focusing on where the ball was, and it was a fantastic ball in. Another assist for Trippier, but
it was an absolutely excellent ball in.
For me, that kind of, what he did was, it's easier for a left footer for coming across that way. It's easier for a left footer, because I used to score loads of goals coming in at that back post myself if I wasn't taking the corner and things like that, But
it was great to see it come off. And
to do it the other side is, it's a difficult thing to do, to hit it with your right foot as it's coming there, and he's kind of off balance because of the fact that it's really his wrong foot for that side of where it's coming. And it was brilliant finish, and
I was really pleased for him as well, because he mentioned in the interview afterwards as well, he's had to do a lot of defensive stuff this season, so he hasn't had the license to get forward. Whereas yesterday he was given that license a little bit more, and it really paid off for him, and he looked really, really sharp. Undoubtedly our man of the match.
Yeah, he was
brilliant. And when we got that goal, I thought we're probably going to kick on and probably get a second and a third. I had no nerves about it, because I thought, right, we had that lovely start. We've been playing some great stuff with possession. Now we've got the goal, but right. How am I going to word this? I'm going to have to. We're going to have.
Well, there was an incident. Was it? I can't remember if it was before we scored or after we scored, where they got in. It was the same player got in down that side, and he came running. What's he called again? Elanga. Elanga. He come running in at Dan Burn, and he had a good 6 yards on him, but he's kind of he's running as Dan Burns looking to see what's happening with where the ball's going to go. He's already sprinting and he's as fast as out. So he was already in line with Dan Burn by the time Dan Burns having to turn and make, rather than, I think he react. This is not for the goal. This is the incident before that.
Yeah, I know the one. It was
The
it was very
reason
smart.
why I think Dan Burn has been brilliant for most of the games is because of his positional play.
Mhm.
He knows he's not the quickest and he's not the quickest to turn. So his positional play is normally excellent where, when he comes up against quick wingers. And I mean, we've played Champions League where he's done fantastically well against some top players. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And really like stop them getting the ball. The two things about it, I think the way that I can't remember if it was Gibbs White the first one, but it was definitely Gibbs White for the goal. He kind of came through everybody too easily, and nobody was able to put a tackle in. And then whoever it was for the first one has put a really good ball for Alanga to basically beat Dan Burn for pace. And he was always going to beat him for pace, but this time round, his position wasn't quite right and his reaction wasn't quite right. But Dubravka made a really good save. Now, for the goal, if you don't mind, I'm going to continue on with the goal.
Yeah.
Because it didn't show you on Match of the Day. You had to watch it live. We got the ball. We won it in the middle of the park. And Bruno did a brilliant little flick over the top of one of their players, controlled it, brought it down, knocked the ball out wide, and then the ball ended up basically down at Almiron. And Almiron put a hopeful ball down the line for Longstaff, I think, who had made a really good run, but it wasn't a very good ball. They picked it up easily. And with a couple of passes, one, we've got Longstaff out of position. So he wasn't there to protect Dan Burn. That was the first thing. Miley kind of came in, the ball came down the right hand, down our right hand side, and Gibbs White picked it up because Miley had kind of looked where the ball was going, and Trippier was coming in from the other side, and was the ball just played through to Gibbs White, and then he's basically, he's not marked properly, and he gets past. I think it must have been Bruno he got past, and you have to give him credit. It was a fantastic, brilliant pass, mind the weight of it,
It was.
and the way he put it through. But again, you've got Dan Burn who is chasing and having to turn, and he's trying to. I think the first one he'd actually made a better job of it to try and get there, but he's just beaten by pace. It was,
Yes.
and he cuts
Well,
inside of him.
I'm gonna have my 2
But
pence on the Dan Burn situation.
Dubravka came out of his box,
Mm.
and I was like, "What's he doing?" Because he
And
was
I know
never
why
going to
he's
get
done
there.
that as well, Davey, because he's seen that Burns has been done for pace, and he's thinking to himself, "Well, hang on a second, there ain't no way Burns getting this ball before
But he
I need to
wasn't
try
getting
and
there
close the
neither.
angle down."
He
Yeah,
wasn't getting
because
there.
he's not that type of keeper. I think he's went, well, chances are they're going to score if he gets on the end of it anyways. Let's see if I can get to it, and he was never getting to it.
Yeah,
But on the Burns situation, so I'm gonna start off with a bit of a caveat, right? Now, I love
yeah,
all the Newcastle United players,
yeah.
but Dan Burn especially has a special place in my heart. He's one of my favourite players. He's a
Yeah,
local lad. I live down the coast. He's from the coast. There's so many reasons why I love Dan Burn, and he is a good footballer. I'm going to start by
yeah,
saying
yeah,
he is a
yeah,
very, very good footballer, and he does a lot of good things in the air. He's absolutely towering. He's a danger from set pieces when we've got corners, when we've got free kicks. He brings a lot. However, when it's becoming all too often now, when he is up against these pacey players, teams are really, really starting to use that and see that as their main attacking threat,
yeah,
and the target in that area. So when we played Aston Villa, as soon as Leon Bailey came on,
yeah. That's
all
right.
of a sudden they went, right, just get the ball to the right-hand side. He's going to do Burn for pace. Burn's going to have his hands full, which was the case. They got one goal. They got another one that was disallowed, and they had to bring on Livramento. And as soon as Livramento came on and they moved him a little bit further in field, he started playing brilliantly again.
Yeah.
So then you
Yeah,
fast
they went
forward
to
to
a
the
5.
next.
They went to a 5 at the back. Yeah.
They did, yeah, and he looked fine in sort of like left of centre, didn't he? You know,
Yeah.
he looked brilliant there. Then you fast forward to the Luton game, and again, Andros Townsend's quite a pacey player. Again, getting a lot of joy down that right hand side, and again Luton Town targeting that get the ball to the right hand side, get the ball to the right hand side. So coming into yesterday's match, seeing Alanga is he's one of the fastest players in the league. Any defender's going to have any left back's going to have trouble trying to keep up with him with pace, but
Well, the guy
especially Dan Burn.
The
So
guy at Luton, it wasn't Townsend, it was somebody else. I'm forgetting who the hell it was now, man. But I remember
was it?
watch,
Was it? What was it? What's his name? Is it Kabori?
I can't remember.
Kabor.
But he's one of the fastest players in the league. He is, honestly, he's unbelievable. And I kind of looked at it and I thought, hang on, right, exactly what you said about what happened with Aston Villa. Now, I'm not having to go at anybody here, but I kind of thought Dan Burn was thrown under the bus a little bit, because it's obvious that they've got a really, really quick winger and he's going to have a go. And there were two things. Dan Burn was out of position a few times, but again, he wasn't protected, because it's just the way that we play.
But
It's
the point
we've
is,
let
David,
in loads of goals, but it's because
there's
the back four are not getting protected.
and this is what I'm saying. Like, I'm not having to go with Dan Burn. It's
But I
not
think
his
you should
fault.
play. We should
He's not
play to our
pacey enough, and he's
strengths.
exactly. And the thing that's getting a little bit frustrating to us was everybody could see that yesterday. Alanga.
Yeah, it was
They were going to
happening
use
again.
that as a threat. He was going to be up against Dan Burn, try and get him up the field, and then do him for pace, and it worked. And I think the reason why we won the second half is because for whatever reason they stopped using the right hand side in the second half. They decided
Yeah,
they were going to go down the left. Had they
yeah.
continued on that right hand side, they probably would have had a little bit more joy. Now, if I could see that, and if you can see
I
that,
know.
and everybody can see that now, and I understand there's a lot of loyalty there, and all the things I said before, Dan Burn does do a lot of good things, but when it's going to start conceding you lots of goals, and you've got somebody there who can play that position, who's young and
Yeah,
who's a very, very, very good player, and who's got more pace than Dan Burn. I'm sorry, why we're still playing Dan Burn out of position when you've got somebody who can play in that position that will utilise that threat when we come up against the more pacier ones.
this is
And
the
I
thing.
take what you say, just to finish off. I take what you say. He has came up against some really, really pacey ones and done well. But now it is starting to become a bit of a repeated process, and it's a really easy way for teams when the back's against the wall to get an out. Right, wait, if we're going to hit them on the counter, we're hitting them on the counter on that right hand side, because especially if Dan burns up, he's not getting back. And it
Yeah,
happened a couple of times. And I don't want to seem like I'm having a go at Dan Burn. He's being played out of position. We had to do that last season because we had no other options but to
yeah.
play him there, and he really stepped up to the mark, and he really did a good job there. But let's have it straight. He's a centre back, and we've got a full back there, a young promising full back. I think, as much as it pains us to say, because like I say, Dan Burn, he's got a special place in my heart. I love all the players, but I think now it's time to start giving Livramento a run in the team.
I think the way I see it, it's horses for courses, and they do due diligence on teams that we're coming up against, and they'll know that they've got a really quick winger, and they'll know what's going to happen. And I think you've just got to basically say, right, we need to rotate, where normally you will play Dan Burn, and rightly so, as far as I'm concerned. But when you're coming up against pace and you know for a fact that that is exactly what teams are going to do, and they play over the press, and because teams have sussed that and they play over and through the press, which I mentioned last season, it's going to be different coming into this new season, because if I can work out how to play against the press, then top managers who are getting paid top dollar in the Premier League are going to be able to work it out.
Mm-hmm.
And likes of Forest and Luton and Bournemouth and just about everybody you know, the writing was on the wall when we saw when we were down at Wolves, and I was down there, and they did exactly that. They basically played over the top of the press, and this is what teams are going to play to their own strengths. And I think if they're doing that, then that means that your back four isn't protected, and that's why Bruno's found himself having to sit that little bit deeper and not being able to get forward, because of that problem. Plus, we haven't got Joe Linton in the side at the moment. But even when Joe Linton was playing, it didn't make that much of a difference, because when they play over the top of a player, he's not there. And you literally got like 1-on-1, 2-on-2, 3-on-3. It's those kind of situations that we were finding ourselves in. And because teams were putting extra players coming in from their midfield into the gap between the back line and the midfield, they end up with sometimes a man over. Tottenham were masters at that against us when we played them. They absolutely murdered us because they got 2 and 3 people in that hole. Livramento was he just ran the game. And this is why I think we need to look at teams, and rather than give somebody a run, it's like saying horses for courses.
Yeah, you're right, and I agree.
Get him in when you know what's going to happen,
I
rather than
agree, and I
thinking,
don't think that was Dan Burn's course yesterday because of the
No.
Elanga threat. It was always going to be a threat, and it was only a matter of time. I mean, it didn't become a threat until later on in the half because we held the possession. As soon as they started getting a bit of possession, you could see what the plan was, and it worked. And it nearly worked quite a few times for them. But we'll move on. I've had me rant about that, and don't misunderstand this. I still love Dan Burn, and if he continues to play, I'm not somebody that's going to get on his back and be like, yeah, crap, or anything like that.
I
But
think
where he had
I think he's
to talk
brilliant.
about the football, and I think it had to be talked about. But the good thing is we've also got a brand new striker, haven't we? We've got a brand new striker. Somebody who's definitely going to get the Golden Boot
in the
award for the
window.
Premier League. Yeah. So yeah, no, our second goal. Look, they weren't even for long. We got a goal back pretty quickly, and again, it came from almost a set piece situation. You got a really brilliant deep ball played in by Kieran Trippier. It was Botman with a nice little cushion header down, and what a finish! Can I just say? And I said as soon as it went in, and then I heard the commentator say it as well, and I messaged Sai as well. I was like, that is the finish of a striker.
Yeah,
That
it
is
was
the
a
finish
top.
of a striker. And Eddie Howe, I saw an interview on, I can't remember, it was one of the channels, and they jokingly said, "Oh, look at, have you got a new striker in Fabian Shaw?" And he said, "Do you know what it is? If you played up top, he'd get it. He'd get a lot of goals. He'd actually get a lot of
I
goals."
think he would. I think he would. I think he's, because he played in midfield for Switzerland when we bought him, and he continued to play in midfield for them. He's a proper footballer. He's a proper total footballer, where he would be comfortable almost anywhere on the field, and he's got his touch and poise in those situations is just, it's like a proper striker. He doesn't thrash at the ball. He doesn't like get a rush of blood and just try and hammer the ball. He has that ability, I think, like a lot of strikers do, where it's like almost slows the game down in his own mind and just makes a decision, and he just passes the ball wherever it needs to be. And he's a cultured top player, and he's been brilliant in defence as well. The only sad thing is he's the wrong side of 30, and he's not going to be there for very much longer. I think he's got another good few seasons in him because he keeps himself fit.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a cracking finish,
It was a brilliant finish.
Yeah.
I mean, he looks dangerous in and around that area. And normally when you get defenders who go for corners and stuff like that, you want them to get a head on it, and you send them up there for their extra height, and they might win a header or anything like that. Absolutely not with him. You're looking for it to get it to his feet, if anything.
Yeah,
And on the
exactly.
edge of the box, I remember Philippe Albert used to have a bit of a thunderous shot from outside the box. I think Shaw's ahead of that. I think he's in terms of
He
shot
can
power
do
and shot
that.
accuracy. He's really
Yeah.
really dangerous. And there is times I think to myself, She would stick him up front. Sure, she would stick him up front. See what
Yeah.
it's like. You know, if you win the game 3-4-0. I remember David James. David James, he fancied himself as a striker,
Yeah,
didn't
he
he?
did.
Didn't he come on for, was it West Ham?
I think he
Um,
might have done.
and he
Aye.
played up
It rings a
front,
bell.
and it was the last 10 minutes, and he nearly got sent off straight away. So yeah, the difference between goalkeepers playing up front and centre backs. But yeah, I mean, look, it was a quality finish. It was really nice to see, and I was buzzing for him. And I felt like we kind of did deserve to be in the lead, but we couldn't hold on to it until half time, which was a shame, really. And Hudson Odoi, I mean, you can't argue too much. It 2-2. What they had played the part in the first half, but it stung a little bit. But a massive deflection. I don't really think anybody was to blame for this. It was one of those goals. I mean, you can't really blame the keeper because the deflection was so big. What was your
I've
take on
got
the
right. Well,
equaliser?
I'm going to take it back a bit further again because Shea, as we've just talked about, he did another thing that is fantastic. He picked the ball up in the middle of the field in defence, and he took on 3-4 players in their midfield. And he was actually getting through, and he was just about to put the ball in his left foot and either look for a 1-2 or a pass. And one of their players really lumped into him. You know, he kicked him, and the ref didn't give a foul because it was after the ball had gone. And I think we had possession of the ball, so there wasn't really any advantage. And I remember me and a number of fans around me. The ball went to Gordon, but there was no real advantage, and the referee kind of waved play on. But then they won the ball back. They had like 2 players
Yeah,
on
I
him, and
remember that.
we were shouting, "Where's the advantage? Why didn't he stop for the foul?" Now, there were 2 things, right? If the referee had given the foul, we would have had possession of the ball. It's running the time down a little bit more. It was coming into that last minute of the game, and we would have had a free kick where we could have, kept possession and consolidated and kept till half time. The other thing is when he didn't give that, Shea was on the ground and he was clearly hurt, and he got himself up, and I was watching him and he was really struggling. And I thought, just go back down, just stay down. And then one of our players, or, they'll not put it out, but one of our players, if we get it, they'll put it out. And then it'll slow the game down, stop it, and then hopefully we'll get a half time. And he didn't, and he was complaining at the referee. I'm not blaming him for it. But what happened is he came back. They basically had possession of the ball. I think the ball might have actually have gone out as well. And then they had possession of the ball, came forward. We got the ball in our defence, and it looked easy. It looked like, I was just going to play out as normal. But the ball Shea was clearly struggling. He was really limping badly. But the ball was played to him. And one of their players came right in the back of him, won the ball, didn't foul him, but he was struggling where he couldn't basically keep a hold of the ball because his ankle had been kicked, basically. He was struggling. They got the ball, bang, comes back inside, shot. Miley didn't turn or anything, it just hit his side. If he turned like most players do, where he was actually brave and he didn't turn away. He turned his head slightly, but if he'd actually turned, then the chances were the ball was going to go wide. Because I was in line with it, and it looked as if it was, it didn't look like a great shot, but of course it hit him, the deflection, and it's in, and that was, that was half time. So there were a couple of things. The referee should have brought it back and give us the foul because there was no advantage. And secondly, if he'd stayed down and got some treatment, the chances are it wouldn't have happened, But It was
Well, I
one of
mean,
those things you kind of go about and change it, you
it
know.
was one of those. It was one of those. But moving into the second half, I'm glad you mentioned the referee because that was one of the worst refereeing displays I think I've ever seen. He
But
was,
he was
he
their
was,
fans.
and he always is. You know what it is, right?
Their
He's
fans were
just a
shouting at
bad.
him as well.
I know
He
he was
was
bad for
awful.
both teams.
Yeah.
So there was some blatant fouls which were right in front of him, and he's like, you could see there was times where he was going to put the whistle to his mouth, and then he was second guessing himself.
Yeah.
And do you know what it is? It's all the time with him. He's just a shit ref, honestly. And the standard of refereeing in our league is so dink. It really, really is.
I
It's
know.
annoying. So I mean that brings what on to probably the because they came out quite strong actually, Nottingham Forest for the second half, and for a while I thought if anyone was going to score, it's probably going to be them. And one year, well, he's
Yeah.
got that ball. He's knocked it on a little bit. He's not a pass. He's probably not getting to it. I thought it was a penalty. When I
He's
first saw it in real time, I thought it was a penalty, and then when I saw it back, I thought it was a penalty. And the reason I thought it was a penalty, right? Well, first of all, it just looked like one in real time. I thought, oh shit, that could be a penalty. That, but it's the fact that Dubravka's arms out like that, and it's his arm that gets him. Had he run into his chest, Dubravka really didn't have anywhere to go, and I would have said, yeah, he's leaving the leg trailing for that.
yeah.
But because his arm's out like that, and it's his arm that's took him down, for me, I think we're lucky on that occasion. But going back to the referee, the referee should have seen that because he was up with the
Yeah,
play,
he
and it
was. He
just
was.
and
He had a good view of it.
if he gives that penalty and it goes to VAR, they're not overturning it. They're really not. They've got to stick with the on-field decision for that because it's one of those ones. It's a borderline one. But for a referee in the Premier League, and look, I know it sounds like I'm having a go here.
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm really glad that it didn't get given because we went on to win the game.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm really happy that it didn't get given. But if I'm a Notts Forest fan, I'm probably looking at that and if that was Newcastle, I'd be foaming. I would.
I
I'd be
mean,
foaming.
I watched it again because the drive back and we stopped off at York for to see my stepdaughter on the way just to call in for an hour, so we didn't get back till midnight. And when you're driving and I kind of just go straight to bed and go to sleep. So I stayed up and watched the match again. And when it came to that bit, I watched it again and again and again. And at first, in real time, when I saw what had happened, I kind of watched him before that part. And of course, it's the far end of the pitch to where I was, so you couldn't really tell where I was. And I thought to myself, first of all, it was awful defending getting done by a ball over the top from the keeper. It was really, really poor. But he got in, the ball comes off his knee and he stumbles. And he basically lost control of the ball. He wasn't touched at all by Botman. He then stumbles again, and then he tries to get the ball again, and he fumbles and stumbles again, and he's going down under his own volition. He's completely lost control of his legs, and he's like, oh shit, the ball's bounced off his knee. He's lost control. He's tried to reach for it, and he's then stuck his legs out, and to me, at first, it looked like he put his into that part of like under his arm. It looked from one angle as if that's what he had done. Deliberately put his foot into that part of Dubravka, and I thought that's not a penalty. He's deliberately done that when he's realised that he's lost control. He's lost control of his legs, and he's stuck a leg out. He's trailed it into him and looked for a penalty. And I think there's an element of that. But then when you saw it from another angle, and this is where I don't understand, because I thought that initially, you can see Dubravka actually does stick his arm out. It's that second reach, and
it's his arm that takes him down as well,
yeah,
which is why for me
I
it
think we
depends.
got
Like you
away
say,
with one. Yeah.
yeah, like I say, if his foot that took him down was in his body, I'd be less inclined. But the question is without Dubravka putting his arm out, he's brought him down with the arm.
I honestly think, I agree. But I honestly think, though, Kev, that what they've done is they've thought, right, the referee's given an on-field decision.
Yeah.
And I think they've looked at it and thought, right, okay, he does touch him with his arm as he's coming out. Now, to me, they should have got the referee to look at that again. But I think what they've done is they've looked at the way that I've seen it initially, and they've seen him as he's basically lost control of the ball and he's tried to play for a penalty. And he did leave his trailing leg there. He did put it there because his leg kind of comes out to the side. And I think that's why we might have gotten away with it. One, because of the on-field decision and this ridiculous thing where they don't like to overturn their mates' decisions. There was a one earlier on, right? It wasn't handball, but I could see from where I was. I had my specs on, and our lass was like, "How did you see that?" But I could see the ball hit Trippier's hand. Now bounced up, and it just hit his hand and went out. Right? As he's trying to shield the ball to go out for a goal kick. And it bounced up, and I thought, oh, shit, that's hit his hand. Like, what's he going to do? I could see that from the other side of the pitch. Now, he didn't give a penalty, but he gave a goal kick. So he didn't even give them a corner.
I mean, it was outside of the box. That particular one, they did look at it real quickly in VAR, but he was outside of the box.
Oh, I don't know.
He was just outside.
Was he? I thought he looked
just outside
when I
of the
watched
box.
it again. Anyway,
just...
but my point was is the referee. Not only it wasn't a penalty. If they'd given a penalty, it would have been an utter travesty.
I didn't think that was a penalty.
But the fact is he had a good look at it, and he's like I'm miles away from it, and I saw it, and the referee didn't see it, and he gave a goal kick. And honestly,
needs your prescription for the glasses. That's what I
need. Their fans were singing Anthony Taylor, "It's All About You," and I agreed with them because it always is. It always is.
He's probably the worst referee in the Premier League. It's every single game. Even when I watch him on other games that are on Newcastle United and he's refereeing, always gets stuff wrong. Constantly getting stuff wrong. So,
but there was something else I wanted to mention before we go on to the goal, because I was right next to the goal. I was on line with the 6-yard line, right? And Matt Sells came into that goal second half, and there were lads behind me. I'm not joking. It was torrential abuse all the way through that second half. They were like, "Sells, you shit. Sells, you." Honestly, it was just. There was a moment that it reminded me. I don't know if you remember when I did my favorite 11, and I said that there was a goalkeeper called Steve Hardwick. Back in the day, the crowds were so small, and he wasn't the best keeper, but the crowds were so small, and the people, there weren't the chants and the singing the way that there is now. And some of our own fans used to have a go at him, but they would tell jokes. They wouldn't be like, "Yeah, shite," or something like that. They would tell a joke, like, "You're as useless as a," or whatever, They would come out with something. He would turn round and look, and he could hear them and turn, and then his face would drop, thinking like, And I used to feel really sorry for Steve Hardwick, and that's why he had a little place in there for me. They were doing it to Sells. And I could see Sells, especially with him being at Newcastle, his head kept going further and further down, right? And I was at just a slight angle. But I could see he could hear, and he was just like turning like that to the side, where you could hear these lads having a go at him. And at one point, he literally turned round to get a look to see exactly who it was. And I just thought, they've done him. They've absolutely done him. His confidence is completely gone. And then minutes later, we scored. And I honestly think it was partly to do with that, because his concentration was shot. And it just reminded me of those days in the 70s with Steve Hardwick.
It was a sensational goal. It was a lovely finish.
There was a point.
It was so far in the corner. I don't know if he was ever getting to that, because
I don't think he would have done. There was a point though. It was just before the goal. Just the angle of, like, we had somebody come in on that side. I think it was Harvey Barnes come in on that side, And I shouted, "Cells, get out of the way, I cannot see," kind of thing. He was blocking my view, and everybody around behind me they were laughing because I was like, because that's the kind of thing, like through the second half, they were just like, it was just abuse, total abuse against him. And I kind of, I've honestly,
12th man, isn't it? It's the
but
12th man.
honestly,
But yeah, we'll move on to the Bruno goal because we are starting to run out of time a bit.
right.
So yeah, the Bruno goal. I mean, I think it just capped what was an absolutely brilliant performance for him.
Yeah.
So I think it was their right back played a horrible ball towards their player on the edge of the box. Bruno completely switched on, saw it, picked his pocket, and his first touch was lovely because it created the space for him.
Yeah.
But he just never looked like he was going to do anything but score. It was Rolls Royce. The way he almost sort of dipped his shoulder a little bit just before he shot. Everything about the goal was just absolutely beautiful to see. And he was talking after the game as well about his celebration. And they were like, so what's all that about? What's the meaning behind that? And he said basically just for the fans not to listen to the hype of the media. Basically, he doesn't want to go anywhere. He's always getting touted with certain clubs, and he's happy here. And by gosh, does he look happy as well? Because that performance last night, we got man of the match, and never has it been a more deserved man of the match. And I think we do need to see him going forward a bit more because he brings so much, and I know he does the number 6 job sometimes, and sometimes he has to do that. But when we're coming against teams that on paper we should be beaten, no offense to Nottingham Forest, who are a decent side, but we should be getting 3 points from them teams, and them teams. I do want to see Bruno getting forward more because it's a delight to watch, and it really brings an extra edge to our attack. So what's your
It's one of those things. I think if Bruno is going to get further forward, we're going to need a change in formation, and we're going to have to play 4-2-3-1. If he's going to be that link getting further forward, then you're going to need the 2 other midfielders sitting the way that Tottenham played so well. They're the masters at it, really. And then you're kind of thinking at the moment, who've we got? We've got Miley and Longstaff. It's about being able to tackle and win the ball in midfield, which that's kind of what they're good at. But because of the system that we play now, Bruno is the one who's having to sit. For the goal itself, I thought their defender was really at fault, and it's not taking any credit away. It's actually adding credit to Bruno, because Gibbs White, if you watch it, Gibbs White sees the defender get the ball, and he's 10 yards away, and Gibbs White moves to run, and he actually goes like that, and he's basically saying, high the ball up, get it out of the area, and he takes a step, so his balance is kind of on his right foot to move to get involved with where the ball is going to go, right? Because they're looking for a winner as well. And Bruno is 6 yards away from Gibbs White, and he kind of just gambles on the fact that, the defender is going to pass it to him rather than just high the ball up. And he just darts into the area, and it's a gamble. I don't think he moves as the ball's being hit. He moves just before, he reacts beforehand. And it's like his brain is on a different level where he's thinking. That's the difference. It's like strikers and midfielders gamble on positions. Sometimes if you're found out, you're like, people will say, what was he doing there? The reason why he was there is because he's gambling on the ball going there, not knowing that it is definitely going there. And as you say, his first touch, he gets ahead, and his first touch just puts it onto his right, and he has time to look, and he curls it in. And where I was on that 6 yard, I wasn't quite in line with it, but you could just see, and it was just perfect. And nobody was going to save that. Nobody was saving that. It was just brilliant. Oh, yeah, you've gone. Yeah. Can I hear you? Have you muted yourself?
I must have hit mute by mistake.
You've muted yourself.
Technical issue there. No, it was a goal worthy of winning the game. It was quite a tight game, and what really impresses after that is that our game management was a lot better last night. they
There
were
was
obviously
one
still
thing.
knocking on the door to try and get the equaliser. But I just
Yeah.
felt like I didn't feel like we're going to concede again, to be honest with you. Like the other games that we've had, I've been really nervy and think myself, oh, we are prone to a late goal. I think we saw the game out a bit better last
Well, he
night.
brought Maley off again and he put Livramento on to stop that coming down that side, because that was where the threat was going to be. But there was one thing that I would have done differently. I would have done all the changes and did exactly what he did, what Eddie Howe did. But because Wilson was clearly not sharp, and by the end of the game, he was blown quite a bit.
Mhm.
And, you know, they're knocking the ball forward and he didn't have the pace.
No.
Their defender, I forget, is a defender with big shoulders. You know, he just looks. He was brilliant. Like he's a cracking player. I really like him. Like he's a player I wouldn't mind looking to get. I think he's better than, no disrespect to Nottingham Forest, but he's better than they are now, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But what I would have done in the last 10 minutes or so after we'd gone a goal up, I would have brought Wilson off and I would have put Murphy on up front so that Murphy could chase those balls and get into the corners and hold it up forward and allow us to have time rather than holding the ball forward. There might be a chance that Wilson might get it. But Wilson, even when he was getting it and he was trying to run with it, he was getting overrun by their defenders and he was losing it and he wasn't able to keep hold of it. I think if we'd got Murphy on, he's played up front as well, but he would have made those runs where they were hiding their fullbacks forward as well. He would have made those runs into those channels and try to keep the ball for likes of, you know, and anybody else that was trying to come forward, especially Barnes and that, you know. And that is the one thing that I was surprised that Eddie Howe didn't do. And he left Wilson on, and I thought that was a mistake. But thankfully, it didn't matter. You know, they didn't really. They had a couple of little chances. Dan Burn made a brilliant interception. He come inside and made a brilliant interception. You know, people slag him off and whatever the last couple of games, but the one moment where they actually did create something, he read it and he came in and got it before it got to their player.
He
And that
does
was
have
on the
that.
edge of the 6 yard.
He does have that in his
He's a
game
top
as well.
player. He's a top player. The problem is as we've said, it's the pace, you know. But yeah.
Well, that was it. I mean, we saw it. We saw it out. We got the 3 points, which is the main thing. Moves us up to 7th in the table, and we've got another winnable game on Saturday. So we'll play Bournemouth on Saturday at St James's Park. There's a 3 p.m. kickoff for that. So me and Davey will be back during the week, and we'll do a preview of that game where we'll have a little look at the Bournemouth team as well. Dominic Solanke.
He's a good player.
Good player. But if you've made it this part of the video, thank you so much. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. We would love you to do that. Give the video a like. That's a really good thing for us if you can do that, because it's our algorithm going, which means it gets out to other like-minded fans who like the sort of content. If you know any fans that might like the content, why not give it a share? And also, if you've got any views on what we've been talking about today, drop a little comment. We love to see a comment in the bottom there.
Yeah.
But thank you very much. I know it's been a while, but we are back. The lads are back. And we'll see you during the week where we'll be doing a preview of the Bournemouth game. But until then,
Howie!